Friday the 13th, the final chapter from 1984, otherwise known as Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. Happy Friday the 13th, everybody. Also, happy Valentine's Day, because that is the day after Friday the 13th this year. I hope that's not a bad omen, but if it is, that's fine. I think we're all used to bad omens at this point. And since it is Friday the 13th, I thought, why not talk about another Friday the 13th movie? I've already done a video for the first movie, but rather than go right into the second one, I thought it might be kind of fun to talk about Part 4, because I consider Part 4 to be one of the best Friday the 13th movies, if not the best. You know, it kind of plays all the hits from the first three movies. It has a lot of humor, a lot of goofy moments. The kills, I think, are better than your average Jason movie, and that's due in no small part to makeup effects artist Tom Savini returning. He hadn't done a Friday the 13th movie since the first one, and he came back for Part 4. And in hindsight, it's very funny that they called this the final chapter and intended it to be the final chapter, because they ended up making 8 more after this. They didn't even wait a year before Part 5 was out. And that should tell you how successful these movies used to be. I mean, they did not cost a lot to make, and they made a lot of money. So it's not surprising that the various movie studios that have owned the franchise over the years would end up riding it into the ground. But I think this one should be a pretty fun one to talk about, so I say we just get right into it. But keep in mind, this is a pretty violent horror movie from the 80s. There's going to be some images of fictionalized violence throughout, although I will try to keep them to a minimum. You're not going to see the same kind of gore that you would see if you actually watched the movie. There's also going to be a fair amount of cursing on my part and some sexual references. I'm also going to probably say tragic a lot, since a lot of people die in this movie. And that's kind of my catchphrase whenever a character dies. So if none of that is your thing, this video is probably not for you. Don't say I didn't warn you. Okay, with that out of the way, here we go. Friday the 13th, Part 4, the final chapter, directed by Joseph Zito, starring Kimberly Beck, Corey Feldman, Crispin Glover, and Ted White. The movie opens up in the aftermath of the ending of Part 3. A bunch of police and paramedics are cleaning up all the dead bodies, including Jason himself, who seems to have been killed by the character of Chris Higgins. They end up wheeling him into the morgue, and a filthy coroner named Axel suggests that one of Jason's victims is still cute and worthy of an attempt at necrophilic activities. So you know this scumbag is not long for this world, and we can be grateful for that. I'm half surprised Jason hasn't already gotten up and killed his ass. And Axel invites one of the nurses to meet him in the cold room, whatever that is. Sounds a lot like the situation in Halloween 2 where Bud was trying to bang a nurse in the hot tub. And much like that nurse, this one shows up. But she says she's only interested in watching the news. I guess Axel is hogging the only TV in the whole damn building. But Axel's horrendous advances end up paying off because she suddenly seems into it. I mean, what is it with female characters in 80s slasher movies? I mean, I think these movies are often pretty blatantly sexist, but it's kind of in a way that I find quaint and humorous. But pretty much all the female characters in 80s slasher movies fall into some kind of stereotypical category. For instance, you have the obvious slutty girl. We'll meet some of those later. But you've also got the girl who seems like she has her bearings. She seems like she knows what she's doing. She's not necessarily a prude, but also not willing to throw down with just any guy. But then she eventually turns out to bang the most horrific scumbag in the movie, outside of the killer himself. And that's what we have here in this nurse. She rejects Axel once, maybe twice, but eventually he wins her over. I don't get how, but it kind of works. They end up making out, and it seems like they're going to have sex, but they are doing so right next to the supposedly dead body of Jason Voorhees. I mean, who gets horny in a morgue? I guess these two fucking weirdos do. There's 3 people in this room right now, and Jason is the one who is the least weird, in my opinion at least. And his hand moves, and it makes them both jump, and Axel's reaction is absolutely hilarious. But fair warning, there is a lot of cursing, if that's what you want to call it. I'm not sure I would call it that, but some people might.
Jesus Christmas! Holy Jesus goddamn! Holy Jesus jumping Christmas shit!
You gotta get that sucker in the icebox! I must be nuts! I mean, I really... Good night, Axel.
Holy Jesus jumping Christmas shit is right. I mean, what is going on here? I love everything that came out of his dumb mouth during that scene. It's so funny to me. And I absolutely love how the nurse now finally has come to her senses. You know, it wasn't sex in the morgue with a complete lowlife that was the problem. But when he started shouting the most goofy, blasphemous obscenities you've ever heard, that gave her the ick. And she decided to leave. Took her a while to get there, but at least she made it. So Axel decides to put Jason away for the evening, or so he thinks, and he sits down to watch, I don't know, some jazzercising, twerking video? I don't know. I don't know what the fuck is going on here, quite frankly. I have no idea, but he is into it. I mean, this wouldn't do it for me, but he's enjoying it. And Jason has now woken up, and he attacks Axel from behind with a handsaw and then completely twists his head around. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Although, what terrible luck he has, because he's not a teenager or a camp counselor. He didn't do drugs, and although he attempted to have sex, he failed miserably. He's a bit unusual for a Jason victim, but at the same time, Jason was probably so fucking annoyed by this guy that he couldn't wait to kill him. And then he kills the nurse too. So in this movie, even thinking about sex can get you killed. I think that means I'm in trouble. And somewhere around Camp Crystal Lake, we meet Trish Jarvis and her mom, Tracy. They're jogging. And they seem to be talking about some guy that Trish is into. And she asks her mom what she thinks. And Tracy says, "I think you're getting horny." Kind of a weird thing for a mother to say to her daughter, but okay. They head back to their home, which seems to be just in the middle of the woods. I mean, have they lived here for all of the other movies? Because a lot of deaths have happened in these parts. Have they not heard about the murders? That's one of the funny things about the Friday the 13th movies, is that they always act like the events of the previous movies happened like decades ago. I mean, part 3 was yesterday. Part 2 happened the day after part 1. So part 2 is not even Friday the 13th. It's Saturday the 14th. It's madness. Anyway, they head back to their home and they talk to Tommy Jarvis, Trish's brother, and Tracy's son, of course. He's wearing a crazy mask and playing a video game, and he's excited because he got over 98,000, whatever that means. And the 3 of them talk, and they mention that the place next door is being rented out by some kids for the weekend. And you would think the authorities would be like, you know what? A bunch of people got killed here. I mean, probably like 25 to 30 people have been killed here in the last 3 years. Maybe don't make it your next vacation spot. Maybe that's a good idea. But no, they keep letting people come here, and they keep wanting to come here. I have no idea why. And why the fuck are there so many living quarters around Camp Crystal Lake? I don't know. And you know, when I was a kid, I thought Trish was probably the hottest person in this movie. But at age 41, I'm looking at her mom. Tracy Jarvis is hot, and she's single. Tracy, come to Long Island. Jason's never been here. He's been to Manhattan, but not Long Island. You will be relatively safe here, I promise. And now we get introduced to the group that's going to be staying next door to the Jarvis household. Doug, Paul, Samantha, Sarah, Ted, and Jimmy. And Jimmy and Ted are talking, and Jimmy says he recently broke up with a girl who is apparently nicknamed BJ Betty. Tragic. Jimmy says he called her a few times, they talked, but eventually she stopped answering and stopped returning his calls. He's been ghosted. It happens. But this doesn't sound like much of a breakup to me. It sounds like it barely got off the ground. Like this guy didn't even get his foot in the door. And Ted, without question, Ted is the biggest asshole in this movie. I mean, he is pretty insufferable. He decides to put this information in his imaginary computer, and he reads the, quote, results to Jimmy, and he says that Jimmy is a dead fuck, which is funny. And Ted clarifies by saying this means that Jimmy is a lousy lay, a dead pecker. So this is obviously a horrendous diagnosis for poor Jimmy. And he just facepalms and says he's horny. And they drive past a hitchhiker who is dressed like Tommy Chong for some reason. And her sign says Canada and love. And when they drive past her, Ted mocks her. And she flips the sign around and it just says, fuck you. I love this movie. This girl has been left in the dust so many times that she is prepared for it with a fuck you sign. And she sits back down on the side of the road and starts eating a banana for some reason. And Jason walks up behind her and stabs her through the neck. Gross. But man, Jason is making good time. He is walking home to Crystal Lake from the hospital.
Scoot! Can you imagine someone as sick as Ferris trying to walk home from the hospital?
The next day, this group of weirdos is traversing the woods. It's like they are basically asking to be killed. There was a massacre here 2 fucking days ago, but no one cares. And Jimmy tells Ted that he's thinking about calling BJ Betty again. And Ted tells him that the first rule of love is to never get rejected by the same girl twice, which I think is fair advice. You know, you don't want to come off like a stalker, but who the fuck made Ted the relationship guru? What does he know? So far, he seems to have more teeth in his fucking head than brains. And they end up running into the Bella twins or something. I mean, what the fuck are the odds? And again, why are there so many people hanging out in this murder forest? I don't know. And these twins are named Terry and Tina, and I don't know which one is which. All I know is that Tina is the more promiscuous of the two. And do you think we have enough T names in this fucking movie? Trish, Tracy, Tommy, Tina, Terry. Enough already. It's so confusing, especially since most of these characters are barely characters. And they all decide to go swimming in the lake. Skinny dipping, in fact. If I was going skinny dipping with a group of people, I feel like it would be more awkward than this. And I would like to know them more than these people know each other, but whatever. Everyone is very nonchalant about it. And Trish and Tommy show up for some reason, and the group seems to know Trish. I mean, sure, why not? And they invite Trish in, which is weird, because there's a child standing here observing all of this nonsense. So naturally, Trish declines, and they leave. And on their way back, the car breaks down, and some random dude just shows up out of the woods like he's Paul Bunyan or some shit. His name is Rob Dyer, and my fellow Star Trek fans might recognize this actor. His name is Eric Anderson, and he played a character named Macduff in the episode Conundrum. And I think this movie is pretty much the only other thing I've seen him in. Anyway, he gets the car working, and hitches a ride with Trish and Tommy. And I know he seems like a nice guy, but he also seems a little strange, too. I mean, where are your East Coast instincts, Trish? Because remember, Camp Crystal Lake is in New Jersey. And I'll tell you what, there's no way this would happen to anybody from New York. I don't care if you fix my car, some guy that just came out of the woods, and I have no idea who he is, I'm not giving him a ride back to my fucking house. I mean, maybe I'll give him $20 for his effort. Maybe I'll even drop him someplace else. But I'm not taking him home with me. That's a little nuts, don't you think? Especially since we're in an area that has had a very high mortality rate over the last few years. And yet no one seems concerned. So I guess I won't be either. And they invite Rob into the house. Again, it's a little risky. And Tommy brings him up to his room and shows him his incredibly detailed mask collection. It's almost like Tommy Jarvis is modeled after a young Tom Savini. I mean, these masks are so high quality that Tommy Jarvis could easily have a career in the film industry. I really think Tom Savini was just kind of showing off with this character trait. And next door, Team Dead Fuck is having a party. I guess they all put their clothes back on and now they're just hanging out. And Crispin Glover asks one of the twins to dance. I say Crispin Glover because this is Crispin Glover. The character of Jimmy doesn't exist anymore. Crispin Glover has taken over the entire scene because what's about to happen here is nuts. They start dancing, if that's what you want to call it. I mean, what is happening right now? What is this? What kind of dance moves are these? I'm a little self-conscious when it comes to dancing, but I know I can do a better job than this. I mean, this is a horror movie with Jason Voorhees killing people in the most brutal ways imaginable, and yet this is the scariest fucking thing in the whole movie. And what is this girl thinking? Is this working? Is she really going out with him? Is she really going to take him home tonight? Because if my eyes don't deceive me, there's something going wrong around here. Joe Jackson, Look Sharp, 1978. Classic. And speaking of music, the song that they are dancing to is not really a dancing song, in my opinion. It's from a band called Lion, and I'm not super familiar with them, but it definitely sounds like glam metal, which I would normally be into, but this is not great, in my opinion. And then, after a few minutes, they start slow dancing. And I've had just about enough of all of this.
I'm leaving.
And over at Trish's, she says goodbye to Rob. He is heading off into the woods to hunt bear, or so he claims. And she tells him that he can stay at their place or use the shower if he needs to. She also says that Tommy usually leaves the door unlocked. No survival instincts whatsoever on Trish, at least not at this point. You don't know this guy. I mean, I know you think he's cute, and he fixed your car, but he came out of the fucking woods like a phantasm, okay? Stop being so trusting of this woodland ghoul. I mean, maybe this guy is hunting bear because he knows most women would choose the bear over him, eh? Get it? Makes sense? No, it really doesn't. And maybe I just don't trust this guy because he was kind of an asshole on Star Trek. Who knows? Anyway, Rob awkwardly kisses Trish on the cheek and then leaves. Okay, it's official. I hate him. And Jimmy and Ted are talking again, and Ted is making progress with the twin that he's been hanging out with, but Jimmy not so much. And it's not hard to understand why after those almost cult-like dance moves that he was doing. I'm convinced that his dance moves inspired the Heaven's Gate cult. I can't prove it, but that's just how I feel about it. And Ted tells Jimmy, once again, to not be such a dead fuck. Listen, guy, you're all dead fucks. You just don't know it yet. And Jimmy's response is, that Ted has the hot one. I mean, what the fuck? They're identical twins. These two numbnuts are the Harry Kim and Tom Paris of this movie arguing over the Delaney sisters. Maybe I shouldn't make Star Trek references in my horror movie videos, but you know what? If you get that, you get it. And if you got it, you know I'm right. And then something good finally happens. Ted gets rejected by whichever twin he was hanging out with, and she seems to be hooking up with Paul, which is weird, because Paul is Samantha's boyfriend. It's so dramatic. Is this a slasher movie or a fucking soap opera? I don't know. And Samantha, of course, sees this, and she is clearly upset by it, but she doesn't scream at him and ask him what the hell he's doing, which is probably what she should do. Instead, she just tells him quietly that she's going for a swim, and she leaves. And Paul seems like he could not care less. He continues making out with one of these twins. I think it's Tina. Let's just say it's Tina, because Tina is supposedly the less prudish of the two. I don't know. Anyway, Samantha heads to the lake, and she keeps calling out for Paul, like he's there. She really did expect him to follow her, but so far he has not done that. So she's just calling out his name into the void. There's no one hearing this except perhaps Jason Voorhees. She eventually curses at him for not being there, and then she takes off her clothes, as you do, and goes for her second skinny dip of the day. One was not enough for her. She swims out to a raft that is just floating in the middle of the lake. She once again calls out to Paul and says, "I know you're out there." He's not. But she's not totally wrong, because someone is. And that someone is a submerged Jason Voorhees. Jason, the young boy who drowned in this lake, but somehow grew up to be a murderous, hulking, behemoth hockey fan, somehow figured out how to swim, even though he has not been able to swim his entire life. That was the thing that killed him initially. Do these movies make sense? Absolutely not. But that's why they're fun. And Jason stabs Samantha to death, and her death face is horrendous. And back at the most vapid party anyone has ever been to, Jimmy once again is dancing with Tina. Or he is dancing with Tina for the first time. So far, Tina has bounced around from Ted to Paul to Jimmy. It's nuts. I mean, I don't want to be the one to slut shame, but someone should do it. Her twin, or a close friend, or someone should let her know that none of these guys are worth getting slutty over. And Jimmy says that, "I thought you wanted to be with Ted." Jimmy, haven't you been paying attention? Ted was so 20 minutes ago. Don't you understand? She's moved on. And I guess Paul was like 10 minutes ago. So now she's moved on to Jimmy. And if this continues, she'll be making out with Jason Voorhees before the end of the night. And she tells Jimmy that she'd like to go upstairs with him. How this guy is about to have sex, I have no idea. But at least it's not Ted. And speaking of Ted, he tries to move in on the other twin, Terry, but he fails. Terry is not as easy as her sister. But it's weird because Terry went and sat next to Ted. If anything, that's the first move, and all Ted has to do is implement a little finesse, a little charm, a little humor, and he might do okay. But he can't do that. Ted has none of those qualities. Ted is the true dead fuck of this movie. Tragic. And I guess Paul must have come to his senses because he finally heads out to the lake to find Samantha. He swims out to the raft and finds her dead. He naturally freaks out and heads back to the dock, and Jason stabs him directly in the dick with, I don't even know. I don't know nautical devices, but it's some kind of pointy spear-like implement. Regardless, Paul is going to be a falsetto singer for the remainder of his very short life. Jason kills him, and let that be a lesson to you. I don't know if it's a lesson anyone needs to hear, because it seems like common sense, but maybe don't start making out with a random girl when you have a girlfriend and said girlfriend is in the same fucking room with you. Because if you do, you might get stabbed in the dick by Jason, obviously. And our resident woodland lumberjack, Rob, hears the commotion and he comes to investigate. He finds nothing. But when he goes back to his tent, he finds that his gun is broken. Jason was here and he destroyed it, which I love. I love moments in these movies that indicate that Jason has a level of intelligence. He's not just a mindless killing machine all the time. I love it when he gets strategic. I wouldn't say that these movies are scary, but they would be a lot scarier if Jason was a little bit more methodical. And back at the old cabin, Ted has found an old porn movie on Super 8. And I do mean old. This thing is like turn-of-the-century porn he's watching. I don't even know if we can call it porn because it's really just a bunch of naked women dancing around in black and white footage. What a night for Ted. And he cannot stop laughing at it. He is watching this smut like it's a comedy. I've never seen anything like it. It's whacking material from a bygone era. I would be studying it like the porn historian that I am. But Ted has no respect for that sort of thing. And Jimmy is about to have sex with Tina. But Tina's sister, Terry, says she's leaving and that she wants Tina to go with. But Tina does not care. She tells her to just go. So Terry heads out to her bike, and it's pouring rain at this point. I get why she wants to leave, because everyone here sucks. She calls her sister a slut, and then Jason kills her. Tragic. I mean, Terry is another one that kind of did everything right in terms of horror movie rules. She didn't sleep with anybody. We didn't see her doing drugs or drinking. She wasn't an asshole. She fits the mold of a final girl, and yet she was killed. But she was the first person that danced with Crispin Glover, so I guess she's got to go. Tragic. And elsewhere in the house, two characters I haven't really had much to say about, Sarah and Doug, head upstairs. They were both watching Ted's ancient porn reels, and I guess Sarah got a little horny, so that's nice. We'll come back to them in a minute. Tracy Jarvis comes home to her house after another jog. I mean, what can we say? She just loves a good jog, even in the rain. And the power is out here in the house. Nobody seems to be home. And she drinks a glass of water right from the tap. I mean, what a time to be alive. Remember when you could just do that without risk of turning into the Toxic Avenger or ending up with microplastics in your balls and your ovaries? Anyway, Tracy hears a noise outside, and it seems like she's about to get attacked, but then it cuts away. Tragic. And then Trish and Tommy come home. They can't find their mom, so Trish leaves Tommy home to go look for her. She comes across Rob's tent and goes in it. I guess just to get out of the rain? I don't know. And Rob shows up and slashes a hole in his own tent. I guess he's really paranoid or psychotic. Or both. And they sit in the tent and talk for a while about what's going on. Turns out Rob is not really out here hunting bear. He's actually hunting Jason. His sister, Sandra, was killed by Jason in Friday the 13th Part 2. And that was a scene where her and her lover get stabbed by a spear. Jason basically makes them into a human shish kebab. How nice. So Rob is out here looking for Jason, and I guess news travels fast in this world because Jason only escaped from the morgue like a day ago. So Rob got this news, packed up his hunting rifle, and went to Crystal Lake before Jason was even there. Talk about planning. And Jimmy bangs Tina. Good for him. I think he needed this. And afterwards, Jimmy asks her if he is a dead fuck. And she laughs and says, "No, I think you were incredible." And she asks if he wants to do it again. All right, so I guess Tina is a keeper after all. But before the second round starts, Jimmy goes downstairs to get some wine. Look at this guy. He was drinking beer earlier, but he gets late and now he suddenly decides he's going to act all classy and highfalutin. And before heading to the kitchen, he interrupts Ted's FAP session to brag about his sex with Tina. He gives him a pair of Tina's underwear, which is weird. Like, she's definitely going to want that back at some point. You can't just go giving it away. But whatever. Ted just laughs annoyingly. At this point, I think Ted has gone completely insane. He was going around telling people that they're dead fucks, even though everyone else is getting laid or close to it, and he's just sitting here watching a silent titty film. What a horrendous ego punch for Ted. And Jimmy goes into the kitchen and grabs the wine, but he calls out to Ted for the corkscrew. He can't find it. And this happens. And warning, although funny, it's also pretty violent.
Hey! Ted! Ted! Hey, Ted, where the hell's the corkscrew?
So, R.I.P. Jimmy. I think that's my favorite kill in the movie. He yells out to Ted and asks him where the corkscrew is, and Jason shows up out of nowhere, and it's just like, right here, asshole. Here's your fucking corkscrew, and slams it into his hand. And he somehow doesn't scream or yell out when his hand has been impaled by a corkscrew. He just kind of freezes, and then he gets a meat cleaver to the face.
In the face! In the face!
And now, Jimmy really is a dead fuck. And even though Ted is in the next room, Jason avoids him for now, and somehow ends up on the outside of an upstairs window where he attacks Tina and kills her. I mean, how is he getting around so quickly and so silently? He's scaling walls at this point. Is Jason a ninja? Are there multiple Jasons? You would think so, but no. He's just really committed to his craft. And I guess he's just saving Ted for later. And the budget for this movie was pretty small. So there are basically no stunt doubles. The actress is the one who actually was thrown onto that car. You see, they made real movies back then. Practical special effects. Most of the actors aren't making any real money. They're doing this shit for the love of the game. And that's why I think even the most low-budget, borderline schlock from the 80s should be celebrated more than some of the big-budget movies today. And it kind of seems like maybe Tina could have survived this, despite blowing out all the windows on the car, as though she fell from a fucking skyscraper. But in reality, the fall wasn't that far. I don't know. She's definitely dead, though. And Jason heads back downstairs and kills Ted by stabbing him through the view screen. And frankly, good riddance. Ted's dead, baby. Ted's dead. Jimmy might have been a dead fuck, but at least he wasn't a dead unfuckable. Or whatever. I don't know. Give me a break. The jokes, they can't all be gems. Even Willie Mays struck out every now and then. And we're back to Sarah and Doug. These two idiots are nothing characters. They're just in the shower together. And Sarah gets out. And for some reason, Doug stays in. I don't get it. I mean, what is this discount Donny Osmond doing? Go with her. I mean, what do you have to stay behind for a few minutes so you can shampoo your bush or something? I mean, what is going on here? And of course, Jason shows up and kills him by breaking through the glass door of the shower, and he just crushes his face like he's the mountain from Game of Thrones. R.I.P. Doug. We didn't just barely know you. We didn't know you at all. Tragic. And then Jason kills Sarah with an axe. We didn't know you either. So, double tragic. And Rob, Trish, and Trish's dog, Gordon, head over to the neighbor's house where all the teens are staying, and Gordon goes upstairs, and I guess he sees Jason because he decides to jump through a closed window, and he's just gone. Gordon has left this movie. He took one look at Jason and said, you know what? I'm done. You assholes are on your own. And I'm not kidding. This dog left.
I'm leaving.
We never see him again. This dog is the smartest character in this movie. And while this is going on, Tommy is just over at his house reading up on Crystal Lake lore. He has been learning about how Jason drowned. He's learning about how Pamela Voorhees died a few years ago. The whole thing. He has access to an entire library of newspaper clippings. How convenient. And while Trish heads upstairs, Rob is downstairs in the basement and he gets attacked by Jason. In case you didn't understand what was happening to Rob, because it was so dark, he was kind enough to tell you. He just says, he's killing me, he's killing me. I've never seen a victim in one of these fucking movies describe what's happening to him for the visually impaired. Anyway, Rob is dead. I'm sure his sister would be proud of his very valiant effort to avenge her death. And Trish makes it outside and heads back to her house where she finds Tommy. They lock the doors and try to hunker down. But do you think that's going to stop Jason? Absolutely not. He ends up throwing Rob's body through the window, and it looks like the whole wall caves in. I mean, Jesus, what is this house made of? Paper mache? And despite the fact that there's a massive hole in the wall of this house now, Jason decides to break through the door like he's the fucking Kool-Aid man.
Oh, yeah!
I mean, Jason didn't have to break through the door. He could have went through the broken window. But he said, you know what? This door's closed. I'm going to smash it. And Tommy and Trish end up hiding in Tommy's room, and Jason breaks in, and Trish takes Tommy's computer monitor and breaks it over Jason's head. So Jason survives something that killed Dan Aykroyd in Grosse Point Blank. How impressive. Trish and Tommy end up between Jason, so they're divided. Jason decides to go after Trish, and she also ends up diving out of the window. Between Tina, the dog, and Trish, everyone is flying through windows in this movie. And she even makes a Trish-shaped dent in the ground. I mean, she should be really hurt. Tina died from a fall like this, but I guess Trish is okay. And someone could have done her a favor, maybe just made sure her skirt was down a little bit, but it's the 80s, so they obviously didn't want to do that sort of thing. And while this is going on, Tommy is just in the bathroom giving himself a haircut. His sister is in mortal danger, but he has decided that it's time to change his image. Trish ends up back inside the house and battling with Jason. She even slices his hand in half, and he has no reaction to this other than perhaps morbid fascination. And just when it seems like Jason is about to kill Trish, a bald Tommy Jarvis comes downstairs and talks to Jason. And this confuses Jason. I guess because Tommy Jarvis looks kind of like Jason did when he was a young lad. So naturally, Jason is like, what the fuck is going on right now? Why is young me talking to me? This makes no sense. And Trish takes this opportunity to slash at Jason with his machete, and it knocks his mask off. And we get a good look at the ever-changing, disfigured face of Jason Voorhees. This causes Trish to recoil in fear. She drops the machete, because of course. And Tommy picks it up and smashes it into Jason's head. He falls to the ground, and the ground kind of pushes the machete even further. And Jason's eye is like moving around the entire time. This is actually a really incredible practical special effect. And he's got to be dead now, right? But no. He moves slightly, and Tommy Jarvis brutally slashes at him with the machete, eventually killing him for the final time, at least until the next time. And in the hospital, the police explain to Trish that Tommy is going to be just fine. He went into a bit of a psychotic state, but don't worry about that. He's just going to be fine. He comes into the room, he hugs Trish, and the camera holds on Tommy, and he has this very creepy look on his face. And the implication is that Tommy Jarvis is going to be the next Jason in some way, shape, or form, which doesn't make a lot of sense because, for one, Tommy Jarvis is not really in this movie a lot. I mean, obviously he plays a pivotal role at the end of it, but he's kind of not doing much else for most of the movie. And we're never going to see Tommy be the next Jason because this is the final chapter. So how could there be more? Oh, wait. The next movie came out a year later, and they do kind of pick up the Tommy Jarvis thing and run with it, but this is Tommy Jarvis in part 5. It's only been a year. Why is he suddenly a 33-year-old accountant? Nothing makes sense in these movies. And overall, I think this is one of the better Friday the 13th movies. The kills in this movie are great. The special effects by Tom Savini are outstanding as always. There are goofy characters like Crispin Glover to make it more fun. And I have no idea what happened to Tracy Jarvis. I think there's a deleted scene that confirms that she's dead, but that's not in the actual movie. So who knows? I like to imagine she just got away. She just left the movie, much like Gordon. It makes her kind of a bad mom, but you know what? Sometimes you got to practice a little self-care. And Jason, you know what? Lay off the MILFs, will you please? You can kill as many dead fuck 25-year-old teenagers as you want, but leave the MILFs out of it. Please, show some compassion. And I also think the look of Jason in this movie is pretty cool, but I didn't remember how little you actually see him in this movie. You only really fully see Jason in the last 25 minutes or so. The rest of it is just brief glimpses of him, which I guess kind of makes it similar to the first movie where you only got a few glimpses of Pamela Voorhees as she's killing people, which I guess is pretty standard for a Jason movie at this point. But I like it when you just see him full on from the get-go. You don't really get that until, I would say, part 6. And I would say the best Friday the 13th movies are 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7. I think those are the 5 best Friday the 13th movies, in my opinion. And I love part 7 because it's the introduction of Kane Hodder as Jason, and I think he is probably the best Jason. He's played the character 4 times, which is 3 more times than anyone else. And I think he's the best because not only is he big, scary, and intimidating like all the other Jasons, but he seems so pissed off. Like the way he moves, the way he takes deep breaths, the way he kills people, it just seems like he's mad. And I always thought that added another layer to Jason. And it's really a shame he didn't get to play Jason in Freddy vs. Jason. I mean, that is what the hardcore fans really wanted to see. But this movie's Jason was played by Ted White, and I think he's probably the second best Jason, in my opinion. He was fantastic. And he apparently didn't want to be credited for this movie because he was upset by how the young actors were being treated. According to an article from Screen Rant, he specifically stood up for the actress who played Samantha because she was forced to swim in freezing cold waters for an extended period of time. He also had a problem with the scene where Jason kills Doug because he has to throw him backwards into the wall of the shower, and as a stuntman, he considered that to be totally unsafe for the actor. And he threatened to quit the movie several times unless more care was taken. So good for Ted White for standing up against the typical dehumanization that Hollywood directors and producers are often guilty of. But as I said, This is one of my favorite Friday the 13th movies. I think it's definitely worth checking out. I know these movies are far from highbrow entertainment. It is very much a turn off your brain experience, but that can be fun every now and then. And I also appreciate them just because they're such a time capsule. Like, they're just so 80s, and I love it. I think if they ever get around to doing another Friday the 13th movie, they should just set it in the 80s. I think that's the best way to do it. Just my opinion, of course. But they are apparently working on a prequel TV series, which could go either way, but I'm bound to check it out even if it's terrible. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But let me know what you think of Friday the 13th Part 4, and let me know what some of your other favorite Friday the 13th movies are. I also hope everyone has a happy actual Friday the 13th, and a very happy Saturday the 14th, which also happens to be Valentine's Day. So, happy Valentine's Day. This is not exactly a romantic movie topic, but whatever. Maybe next year I'll do a video for My Bloody Valentine. We'll see. Anyway, until next time, take it easy.
Holy Jesus, goddamn! Holy Jesus, jumping Christmas shit!
I'm leaving.